What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and a lot of you might be considering buying Apple's new iPad, the iPad Pro 9.7 edition. So with this video, my goal is to inform you 20 things you probably should know before buying this smaller iPad, or maybe you're choosing between this and a larger one, or an older iPad Air 2. This is everything you need to know about Apple's new iPad Pro 9.7. Now, to the disappointment of many, Apple shipped this with just 2 gigabytes of RAM, whereas the larger iPad Pro 12.9 edition comes with 4. Now this can be explained by the difference in size. The smaller iPad doesn't have as many pixels to push, but 2 gigabytes of RAM is exactly what came in the older iPad Air 2. Now, not only did Apple reduce the amount of RAM, they neutered the A9X chip as well. It's slightly underclocked versus the larger iPad Pro, and the graphical performance is where more of the difference takes place, at 16% difference. Now, whether or not you'll see this in your usage is debatable. We'll have to wait and see, but it's a little disappointing that it has less performance. Now, because of the new smart connector on the iPad Pro 9.7, Apple has officially went out and said that your old smart cover will no longer work. The magnets have been repositioned inside of the chassis, so they recommend you don't use the old one as it could become unstable and you could drop your iPad as a result. But fear not, if you're upgrading from an iPad Air 2, all of your old cases will still work. The smart connector may be blocked off and be unusable, but the actual dimensions of the new iPad Pro 9.7 are identical to the old iPad Air 2. So if you have any old case laying around, it will still fit. And just as predicted, the new iPad Pro 9.7 made lots of upgrades to the display. Of course, not in terms of resolution, but in other areas. Brightness, lower reflectivity by up to 40%, a higher color gamut, and even better viewing angles. So this is definitely up to par with the iPad Pro 12.9 edition. However, Apple went even further by adding a true tone display. So night shift changes your color temperature on your display, but Apple pushed this further by adding 2 sensors into the top of the iPad where they'll now detect your ambience. So the iPad Pro night shift display feature is even better. It'll be fine-tuned to every environment you're in, not just by time and location. Now, I was very surprised that Apple actually put the entire camera sensor from the iPhone 6s into the new iPad Pro. They went all out. Apple has a long history of watering down the cameras in the iPads. They're never the same as the current iPhones. Apple always wanted to keep them a step behind. But not only is this the same sensor, none of the capabilities have been cropped. I mean, this thing can do 4K video, slow motion, literally everything that the new iPhone 6s can do as well. Just no optical image stabilization, of course, but hey, it's good enough for me. As a result, sadly though, it does protrude, and it protrudes a lot, more than the 6S even. There's a huge noticeable bump. Now, how this will be, on a flat surface, I don't know yet. Hopefully it doesn't rock back and forth. That can be really annoying, but there is a very large bump. And this is the first iPad to get Retina Flash, True Tone, color coordinated front-facing flash. That's awesome. I love it. One of my favorite iPhone features, but now on the iPad. Don't get blinded by the light. It's a huge display. And I'm so happy for this one. Apple went all out on the audio thanks to the new speaker technology, and the larger iPad Pro has been migrated to the smaller one. And this is by far the best audio I've ever heard on any tablet. Now look carefully on the bottom. There is no USB 3.0 to be found. That's exclusive to the larger iPad Pro, and that sucks. Slower transfer speeds, but not only that, this thing doesn't get fast charging as a result. Apple actually pushed out a new fast charger and a cable for the iPad Pro larger edition, which will charge it much faster. Sadly, because the smaller iPad Pro doesn't have that USB 3.0 port, it is not compatible with fast charging. And for a Pro iPad, this one was disappointing as well. No second generation Touch ID, so speeds are going to match that of the iPhone 6 and below. Same Touch ID sensor basically. The iPhone 6s with the second generation blazes far ahead. And battery life is great. It's actually the exact same battery life as the old iPad Air 2 and the iPad Pro. So you'll pretty much get all day battery life. Now, how fast it'll take to charge, that's what I'm curious about. The iPad Pro would actually discharge faster than it would charge if you were doing something intensive. I don't know about this one though. The iPad Pro 9.7 has exclusive advanced LTE, meaning it has more LTE bands, so it's probably a better international iPad to travel with. And it's the very first iPad to ship with Apple's built-in SIM card. So this thing has 2 SIM cards basically. The one that you can replace yourself and one built in that can be automatically selected and tuned to a certain carrier out of the box. And sadly, I can't show you this one. This was one of the things that Apple didn't talk about. No one's talking about, but it stood out to me. The LTE bands on the new iPad Pro 9.7 are so sleek and sexy. This is basically the leaked design from the iPhone 7, but we're seeing it early on this iPad Pro. Cannot wait to get my hands on this and take a look. Really not a big deal, but I was curious as to why the FCC labels are still existent on the iPads. On the iPhones, they've been removed, terminated. You can no longer find them. On the iPads, they still persist. Apple has finally blessed us with a higher base storage option and also 256 gigabytes, the very first device to offer this storage configuration. That's pretty monumental, I think. Exclusive to this version of the iPad Pro, hands-free Siri, a feature borrowed from the iPhone 6s, then the SE, and now on the iPad Pro. A great advantage to buying the smaller iPad Pro is that you can get a free subscription to Microsoft Office. You can use it for free. The larger iPad Pro requires Microsoft 365, so something definitely you should consider. Now, I'm sorry to rain on Apple's parade, but they boasted a lot at their event how this thing can replace a PC. This thing doesn't even have Xcode support. I mean, really, there is no way in heck this thing is replacing a PC. For people that need a light device, sure, it's great, but if you're going from a fully fledged computer to this, it's a huge step down. And no one should buy an iPad Pro blinded by Apple saying it's better than a PC. Really, for productivity, I highly doubt it. But anyways, guys, thank you for stopping by. The iPad Pro 9.7 is a great device. I honestly think it's a little too confusing. Apple's making some features exclusive to the smaller and larger iPad Pros, and it becomes a mess when you start to dissect it. But in its own right, it's a great device. Hopefully this video made your decision a little bit easier. Peace.